good. Bonjour, mes amis. Bonjour. With Bach's well-tempered clavier being played, the sound of the bell felt a little redundant this morning. Bach is always welcome in this house. Welcome, everyone, to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Whether you are here in Worship Hall, do not hurry, come in as your own, get comfortable. You can do what you need to do while I'm yakking at you, that's just fine. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, please feel welcome here. I'm the Reverend Eric Meter, this congregation's lead minister, and I'm thrilled to be with you as we gather, if I have it right, on the first Sunday of the year of the rabbit. This morning I am joined by our worship associate Mary as we welcome Kirk in leading music this morning. Let's thank Kirk for joining us. Welcome. And yes, David, I just stole your fire. I apologize. And I'm also thrilled to and looking forward to what our guest speaker this morning, Alex Campbell, will be sharing with us. For any newcomers, Alex is a former priest from Durban in South Africa who has been active in this congregation for a few years now, Alex. Is that correct? Our children are down in their activities this morning. Their Our Whole Lives Comprehensive Human Sexuality class is beginning this morning. So while the table is set up, they will not be gracing us with their presence this morning, sadly. So let us do what we can do to fill the space without them. Let us sing this morning. You'll find Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves as number 184 in our gray hymnal. We have singers coming forth. Please rise as you are willing and able.
Good morning, everyone. Isn't it lovely to start off with music? Once again, welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Mary, and I'm delighted to be a worship associate this morning. Whether you are taking part in this worship celebration right now or whenever you may log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all those who have the willingness to understand, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during these unusual times. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and you would like more information about us, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Jane is there to welcome you. Now here is David from our board to highlight our announcements for today.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. My name is David Charnushenko. I'm a member of this congregation's board of directors. We're very happy to welcome our new interim music director, Kirk Adset. All three of our choirs are now meeting regularly and welcoming new members. So check out the music page on our website or email music@firstunitarianottawa.ca for more information. There are still a few spots remaining for our coming of age class for the 12 to 14-year-old. Registration deadline is January 30th. Classes will be held Sunday evenings and beginning February 12th until the end of April. We'll be hearing a little more about that shortly. A family potluck and orientation is planned for February 5th. You can check out our website or the EUU newsletter for more information and to register. The host team for the CUC Symposium, the Canadian Unitarian Congress Symposium, is taking place at Algonquin College May 19th to 21st, and they're now more actively recruiting volunteers for roles both before and during the event. We also need some volunteers for the concurrent youth event taking place in our building. For more information, and or to volunteer, please contact our volunteer coordinator, Kathy Yaw, or our host team lead, magically appearing at my side, Maury Prevost, so you can put a face to the name. Thanks, Maury. We will also be figuratively tapping some of you on the shoulder to ask you to consider serving in certain roles. We are grateful to the people who have already volunteered. And finally, we extend a warm welcome to our latest new members who were approved at the January board meeting, Lars Kloot, Sarah Craig, and Tess Frost. Welcome. And now here is Donna with our weekly Environmental Action Group announcement.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Bowen-Willer, and I'm part of the Environmental Action Group. So there's lots of climate action again this week. Click over to the climate action page. Coming events, there's a whole range of possibilities. If you're angry and upset about the ill-conceived Bill 23, join activists and experts on Zoom to plan a path forward. Note that this takes place on Wednesday evening at 7, not Tuesday, as it says in the coming events. So that's Wednesday at 7. And our first advocacy of 2023, recent reports show that despite promises to cap oil and gas emissions, subsidies from the federal government to the fossil fuel industry may have actually increased. Amounts are nearly 20 times the support given to Canadian renewable energy. Read more and join the letter campaign to pressure the federal government to stop subsidizing the fossil fuel industry. And don't forget our New Year's action. Support an environmental group, your choice, with time or money or both. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Donna. We encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter. Check our Facebook and Instagram pages and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though as global health challenges continue, many of our activities still take place online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are part of our spiritual community. Welcome.
This morning, on this bleak midwinter morning, we revisit the theme of the center and the balance in our lives, and we'll do so in the context of our mission to kindle a light within, inspiring courage to nurture the web of life and to create a just and compassionate world. To begin our service, I light this candle to the words of Unitarian minister Betts Weinecker. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within us and around us. Our chalice is lit. Come, let us worship together.
We were expecting Melissa to be with us to talk about coming of age. So, Melissa, come, talk about coming of age.
You can tell that Reverend Eric and I have not yet met in person. He didn't recognize me. Good morning. My name's Melissa Johnson. I am one of the instigators of the upcoming Coming of Age program. It was a vested interest on my part because I have a 14-year-old, and I also have a young adult daughter who participated in coming of age several years back, and I said, hey, aren't we doing this? We should get this started. So I've been talking to NAO since last spring, and we are finally moving forward. Now, I am not one of the facilitators of the coming of age because I have a child who would be in the program, and parents just can't do that. But I want to talk about coming of age, why and what, and what we've got planned. When I was a teenager, I read a book. It was a novel called Rite of Passage. It probably wasn't a very good novel, but the story stuck with me. And it was about this space-dwelling civilization who trained and taught their 13 and 14-year-olds for a year or so in what they considered necessary survival skills, and then they dropped them on a passing planet to spend a week. And when they came back, they were considered adults in the community. It was sci-fi, fantasy, pretty light, but on the other hand, it borrowed heavily on traditional cultures that considered that idea of rite of passage, of coming of age, as important as the rituals and celebrations of birth, taking a life partner, death. And by and large, we've lost that. In our modern Western culture, we give very little attention to the passage from childhood and the introduction of taking on new responsibilities, what it is to be an adult in the community. So that's the hole that coming of age aims to fill. It will include an overnight retreat at the church. It will include opportunities for reflection on values and beliefs, on when bad things happen, what do you do? It will finish with an optional wilderness retreat. It won't be a week on a foreign planet. It will be a daytime experience, but with the goal of giving people an opportunity, giving our youth an opportunity for contemplation and reflection. And the program will finish with a celebration here at the church where the youth will be invited to present the results to the congregation of some of their reflections, and we'll hold a celebration dinner. So the elements of coming of age anthropologists have identified are that coming of age includes ritual, learning, testing, and celebration. And our goal is to include all of those elements. Each youth will be paired with a mentor from the congregation during the program, somebody that's not a parent, not related to them, that they can talk about values and growing up and, different eras and experiences and so on. And one of the reasons that I am standing here this morning to talk about the program is I want the congregation to feel a connection with the program, the coming of age program. It's not just happening out there, downstairs. It's a part of our community. And I would invite you to take notice, if you happen to see the youth in the church, see if you can learn their names. If you're invited to act as a mentor, consider whether you could offer that. It is, as I say, as important an experience as those other 3 big life celebrations that we haven't lost. And so we're looking forward to the program starting. Now, I did notice in David's announcements that he said the registration deadline is January 30th, and we're holding the orientation supper on February 5th. That is both true, and because the orientation dinner is an opportunity to invite the youth to make a decision about whether they want to make a commitment to the program, I'm going to say that the January 30th deadline is a deadline for expressions of interest. It's telling us you're going to come to the February 5th orientation dinner, and at that time, the youth, the families will be asked to reflect on whether they can make the commitment to really show up, to participate. Because if they are interested, but they also play hockey and are only going to be there 10% or 20% of the time, that's not making a commitment to this program. If they're not really keen on it, but their parents want them to do it, that's also not making a commitment to the program. So we are asking for reflection, and we are asking for commitment. On the February 5th deadline, we would like to know by January 30th who might be interested. It's for youth 12 to 14. If you happen to know youth, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, neighbors, we need to add a few more to be able to run the program. Thank you very much for your time. The program says singing our children to class is next, and since they're not here, I am going to take a guess that it's time for centering words.
The centering words for today are by Sarah Eileen Lowell. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage, the courage of our deepest convictions, to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of security, we rise to proclaim our faith, with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise.
Melissa, it is very good to meet you. Thank you. Each week at this time, we pause in honor of what we hold with us, whether we have joys or challenges or sorrows, we lift up those things. And as in the last several weeks, we've been making sure we have a joy every week. I drop our first stone for a personal joy, also a literal one. Oh, and we drop a stone in water, the ripples expand through, beyond the pews, through this building and out into the greater world. My sister-in-law, Joy, and my brother-in-law, Eddie, have been visiting. Joy lives in Toronto. Eddie lives just outside of Frankfurt in Germany. We began doing some earnest planning with my wife, their mother's memorial service, which will be later this year in Ohio. Nana died 2 years ago this coming February. Place a stone for Nana. I also place a stone for Elizabeth, a member or friend of our congregation, who is recuperating in the hospital, feeling stronger every day. When I talked to her late this week, she really didn't want to talk to herself about herself. She wanted to know how I and my wife Ann were doing. Elizabeth, we're doing fine. Thank you. We also drop a stone this morning for Joan in our congregation. Her son is facing an illness, and our thoughts are with she and her family. Caring cards are available for you to sign at the back of the hall for both Elizabeth and Joan. Even if you don't know them, your signature on a card that they will receive in the next few days says that you value their contributions to making this community as truly vital as it is. So please sign and thank you. A final stone this morning for all that remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, for what we carry, for who we are. Let us join together now in a few moments of silent meditation before Kirk brings us back together with the gift of music once more.
It's so lovely to hear that peaceful music, isn't it? But something you recognize and can kind of hum along with. But thank you, Kirk. The reading today is called Siding with Love by Lisa Friedman. You never know when the moment of decision will come. Perhaps it is on the school playground when you see the class bully picking on a new victim, or standing in the checkout line at the grocery store behind a young mother whose screaming child has her at her wit's end, or at a staff forum at work when your pledge to take some unpaid leave days could help save a co-worker's job. Such moments come in different ways to each of us, but they do come. They remind us that the decisions we make in our day-to-day lives do make a difference. They point out the ongoing choices we make between standing uncomfortably on the sidelines of our messy world, unsure of what to do, and acting deliberately in small but concrete ways to help create a kinder, more compassionate reality. They return us to the powerful truth that in critical times it is possible to stand on the side of love and, in the mystic's words, to help its mighty power to surge upward and surmount every obstacle by defending, supporting, and advocating for each other as if we all were equals in our humanity. Or do they? After all, are we fallible human beings really that powerful? If siding with love is so significant, then why isn't the world a better place already? Don't most people already think of themselves as siding with love? Or at least as much love as they can manage, given that most of us cannot live as saints. It is a spiritual paradox. It is precisely because we live in a world which knows the evils of greed and violence and the seas of human indifference that we understand just how sacred it is when our acts of love and compassion actually triumph. And it is precisely because we live in a world which knows such triumphs, that we cannot fully give up hope on our imperfect humanity.
A few weeks ago, when Reverend Eric asked me to preach this Sunday, He told me that the themes for his January sermons were to be on finding our center and the importance of balance and imbalance in our lives. Not knowing what he was to say on the previous 3 Sundays, I decided to approach the theme from my experience of these important spiritual realities. Last week, Eric suggested that it is good to see things from a different perspective. New insights are often possible when our perspective changes. Well, here's one. I suppose you could say that the title of my sermon is The Meandering, Rambling Musings of an Old Man. I'll start with my experience of imbalance. I'd always taken my physical balance for granted, had walked upright and steady, and I sympathized with those friends and acquaintances who had bouts of vertigo or who suffered from forms of Parkinson's. That was until last March. Marlene and I were carrying our groceries home when I had a nasty fall on Cleary Avenue, just outside number 75. Phil saw me and called 911, and I was taken to the emergency department of the Civic Hospital. After various tests and examinations and assessments, it was decided that I was at a great risk of falling again and that I was a candidate for obtaining a walker. I did just that, and since then have relied on my Lexus to keep me upright in my perambulations, and on various other aids at home to assist me in other ways around the apartment. Never before had the tension between balance and imbalance been part of my experience. I'd always taken my physical balance for granted, and now I was living with the reality of daily and persistent imbalance. This was a new reality for sure. When I was a young seminarian, it's hard for me to believe that that was 60 years ago, we learned the dictum from the Greek philosopher Aristotle as it was translated into Latin by Thomas Aquinas, in medio stat virtus. This simply means that strength or virtue is found in the moderate position between and above the two extremes of any issue. In other and more simple terms, everything in moderation. Last week, Reverend Eric suggested that we often yearn for balance in our lives. Balanced living means we need to consider all aspects of our life, relationships, work, fitness and health, and our emotional and spiritual well-being. We talk about the balance between body, mind, and spirit. When things are out of balance, life can feel exhausting, if not outright scary. We all get bogged down with work and family responsibilities from time to time. But making time for yourself is absolutely necessary so that you can keep up with all your responsibilities. It is not always easy to keep our lives on even keel. Sometimes we may find ourselves at one of the extremes of either great joy or overwhelming sadness. Charles Dickens captured this in the opening words of The Tale of Two Cities. It is the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, and it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, or we were all going direct the other way. No doubt we all agree that we are living through what many call unprecedented times. We know that there have been pandemics before. My grandfather, for instance, died in 1918 during the worldwide Spanish flu pandemic. And we all know there have been wars before, and political upheavals before, and the ravages of colonialism before. It's one thing to read about these events in history books, but even though you're living through them, they are, of course, deeply unsettling and overwhelming. They naturally lead us to declare that with COVID and its many variants, with the increasingly troublesome immoral war in the Ukraine, with political upheavals and insurrections in so many countries, with difficulties faced by Canada's Indigenous people, and with environmental degradation and devastation happening all over our globe, we are living in the worst era in history. But for the sake of balance, we should also recall that we are living in a time of unprecedented vaccine development, a time in which many people are putting their lives on the line and trying to bring about peace and human rights for all. A time in which we here in Canada are doing what we can to bring about reconciliation with the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. A time of recalibration concerning our use of fossil fuels, and an exciting time for the development of alternative forms of energy. In this regard, we thank Donna and the Environmental Action Group for their regular reports, telling us of the dire reality of climate change, but also pointing us in the hopeful direction of changing the trajectory. And we thank all those who imagined the Ajeski project, which has been so very successful here at First Unitarian. And on a personal note, I'm certainly thankful to the person who invented the Zimmer frame walker and the government program that allowed me to get my Lexus. Moving on, as I stand here, I look out at you all, I can't help but see our mission statement in that beautiful green banner on the back wall. We kindle the light within and inspire courage to nurture the web of life and to create a just and compassionate world. This statement, to my mind, is a call for balance that speaks of the dynamism between the core, the light within that inspires courage, and the periphery, nurturing the web of life and creating a just and compassionate world. In a sense, this for me is a statement of the balance between introversion and extroversion. These words were coined by the depth psychologist Carl Gustav Jung in his groundbreaking theory of psychological types, and they refer to the different sources and focuses of psychic energy. We all have both an introverted and an extroverted attitude within ourselves, but we all prefer one over the other, and there's a need for balance. Very briefly, people who prefer extroversion are attracted to and get their energy from the outer world of people and events and are aware of who and what is around them. They tend to enjoy meeting and talking with new people and are usually friendly, often verbally skilled and easy to know. However, they may not be as aware of what is going inside themselves and may get bored and restless if alone too long. They need introversion for balance. On the other hand, people who prefer introversion are attracted to and get their energy from the inner world of thoughts and feelings and reflections, and are usually very aware of their inner reactions. They prefer to interact with people they know and are often reserved and harder to get to know themselves. They may become drained and tired interacting with people, particularly strangers. However, they may not be as aware of the outer world around them and can seem withdrawn and secretive to extroverts. They need extroversion for balance. This very brief description of introversion and extroversion may help to explain why some here are more attracted to kindling the light within and inspiring courage, and others are more energized by nurturing the web of life and creating a just and compassionate world. Indeed, we are all attracted to both sides, definitely, but some of us are energized more by the one, while others are energized more by the other side. This might explain also why some of us meditate and contemplate with ease, while others of us may find it difficult to focus on our breathing and inner quiet. Why some of us find it easy to reach out to strangers and visitors, while others not so, and tend to hesitate before approaching visitors or someone new to the congregation. why some of us prefer to be in the background, when others of us prefer to be out front. Why some prefer to volunteer quietly in the meditation garden and others prefer to organize and attend various protests and meetings for justice and human rights. These trite examples, and they are trite examples, whatever our preference, do not excuse us from trying the other side and even getting very good at it. Remember, we all have introversion and we all have extroversion, and we all prefer one over the other, and there is always the need for balance. Returning to Carl Jung's theory of personality types, he also maintained that we use our minds in two ways: to perceive reality with what he calls the perceiving mental functions of sensing and intuition. Some of you may recall that Marlene and I led a short pre-COVID forum one Sunday morning on this, and I'll not go into this in any great detail. Suffice to say that we all have and use these polar opposites as part of our perceiving reality, but we prefer one over the other and need its opposite for balance. Likewise, we have two judging or decision-making functions of feeling and thinking. Again, we all have and use both, but we prefer one over the other. Very briefly, those who prefer thinking mental function in their decision-making use logic to analyze a problem, assessing the pros and cons, focusing on the objective facts and principles relating to the decision to be made. They tend to be assertive, firm, but fair, and are good at critiquing and analyzing a situation. On the other hand, those who prefer the feeling mental function use their personal value system to understand the situation and subjectively focus on harmony and what they perceive as circumstances surrounding a decision to be made. They tend to be compassionate and are good at showing appreciation, affirmation, and empathy. Once again, we all have and use both feeling and thinking in our decision making. But some of us prefer thinking and need feeling for balance, and others of us prefer feeling and need thinking for balance. I mention this because, as Lisa Friedman said in this morning's reading, we never know when the moment of decision may come, or how important or insignificant the decision may be. And to assist us, regardless of whether we prefer the thinking or the feeling mental function, we all have norms to help us in our decision making. Our 8 principles and our 6 sources and our mission statement are the norms for discernment we have to assist us in our decision making. Some of the principles appeal to the thinking function. Others of the principles appeal to the feeling function. But all 8 principles are there to guide us as we respond to what happens in our lives. I've spoken here before about spirituality and religion, so you may remember that for me, spirituality refers to the individual style of life we all have that stems out of our personal identity and expresses who we are as we relate to ourselves, other human beings, the environment, and ultimately to however we perceive God. I'd now like to suggest how what I have been speaking about might relate to our second and third sources: words and deeds of prophetic men and women, and wisdom from the world's religions which inspire us in our ethical life. Siddhartha Gautama, probably an introverted, intuitive thinker, led an ascetic life in the forest for 7 years and gained considerable fame for his austerities until one day he collapsed. He had an encounter with a village girl who gave him some porridge, and he began to regain his strength. He found that he enjoyed the food once again. This is the origin of the teaching of the middle path: nothing to excess, not too much, not too little, no gluttony, no ascetic deprivations, balance. In summarizing what then transpired, Unitarian minister Peter Tufts Richardson, in his book Four Spiritualities, tells us that Siddhartha walked until he came to a pipal tree called the Bodhi tree, because this was the place where he became the Buddha, the enlightened one, who, by the way, wrote the words of our first song here this morning. This Bodhi tree was the tree of knowledge and wisdom, the place of awakening. The soon-to-be Buddha approached the tree. He went to the north side, and the world ahead of him went up, and the world behind him went down. Lacking balance, he circled to the west, and the same strange thing happened. Then he walked to the south, and it happened again. When he reached the east, the world stayed still, and so he sat in yoga meditative posture facing east. This was the direction of the new day, the rising sun. Encircling the tree, he had drawn a circle of the four directions, a compass, the wheel around the hub of the world tree. It is the wheel of the eightfold path for attaining enlightenment, balance, Buddhahood. It was under the Bodhi tree that the Buddha endured great temptations of desire, lust for experiences, and greed for possessions. Resisting these and other temptations, the full force of enlightenment was now open to him. He moved through knowledge of the Four Noble Truths and attained the rapture of enlightenment. The spiritual unity of humankind was affirmed for him, and he felt compassion in his heart. This Buddha spent the next 50 years teaching the Four Noble Truths. There are some here this morning who, as Unitarians, follow the path of the Buddha, part of their core or center in their search for balance. A few centuries after the experiences of the Buddha, Jeshua Bar Joseph was born in Palestine. We call him Jesus. He was probably an introverted, intuitive feeler. For 30 years or so, he lived a hidden life. Some think that he served as an apprentice in his father's carpenter shop. However, it's more likely, according to Unitarian Peter Richardson, that he was secluded with a radical group, the Essenes, or listening to the scriptures and pondering the dynamics of justice for a subjugated society. He then spent a secluded time in the wilderness where he was confronted with the temptations of selfishness, fanaticism, and power. Overcoming these, he began his short public ministry with a well-prepared summary of his teachings for living, known as the Beatitudes, a social program for living in an alternative spiritual reign of God. According to biblical scholar John Dominic Crossan, all the sayings of Jesus were at once individual and social, balance again, and political and religious. Jesus, very much an idealistic introvert, was engaged in an evolutionary social movement of empowerment that was radically egalitarian, opposing colonial Rome, and against the policies of the Herodians that impoverished the poor of the Galilee. A turning point in his ministry took place when he asked his close disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" After some humming and hawing among the group, Peter answered, "You are the Christ of God," meaning the Anointed One or the Prophet of God. The teachings of this prophet were mainly about love and how to express that love in caring for the widow, reaching out to the refugee, visiting the prisoner, feeding the hungry, honoring children, doing and being good to oneself and others. Notice how the counsel and the teachings of the idealistic introverted person so often dealt with going out in an extroverted manner and doing love, doing compassion. There are some here this morning who, as Unitarians, follow the teachings of Jesus, part of their core or center in their search for balance. I am one, and I have no hesitation in referring to myself as an extroverted, feeling, Jesus-following Unitarian Universalist. Spiritual writers down the ages have taught that the aim of Buddhists and the followers of Jesus, called Christians, is to emulate these gurus to the extent that they become the presence of the Buddha and Jesus in our world. Despite the words of the beautiful carol that Fusion sang a few moments ago, in which Mary worshipped her son Jesus, Despite that, in the words of Palmer, a former mega-evangelical pastor, quote, "The point was never to worship Jesus, but to turn ourselves into a Jesus. Not to worship Buddha, but to turn ourselves into a Buddha." This was the meaning of their lives. To turn yourself into a Jesus or into a Buddha is to awaken to the nature of reality, to embody truth, to walk in wisdom, to grasp your true self, to live with deep peace and joy, to courageously confront the problem, to open your heart with compassion to the whole world. I'll end with the practical suggestion that finding balance in life, finding balance in body, mind, and spirit, helps you improve your overall health. When you have balance, you have time to pay attention to your body's needs. You can prioritize things like diet, sleep, exercise, and meditation, instead of regretting that you never have time to take care of yourself. If we follow the examples of the Buddha and Jesus, we'll live balanced lives by spending time identifying our core in our center, kindling the light within, and by spending time on the periphery as we courageously nurture the web of life and create a just and compassionate world. In doing this, our balanced decision-making will be a great help. And here endeth the meandering, rambling musings of an old man. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your patience. So may it be.
This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else at all, you are part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that will soon be making the way among our pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or keep up with your pledge. And the baskets will now start arriving. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, following the theme of our choral piece earlier, please rise as you are willing and able, as we join together in our closing hymn, Deciding on the Side of Love, 1014, in our teal hymnal. Note the word change from standing on the side of love to deciding for the side of love, hymn 1014, teal hymnal.
Our time of worship together is drawing to its close. I thank Reverend Eric for inviting me to be part of the service. I thank Mary, our worship associate, Kirk and Fusion for their wonderful musical contributions, to Dee, who helped people use our very, I don't know what to call it, our elevator, and our technicians, Julia and Eric, who do such a marvelous job of keeping us on our toes and spreading the word far and wide. And so I extinguish this chalice this morning, knowing that the light and warmth that it symbolizes will be with us throughout the coming week. We now sing together our closing song, Spirit of Life.
If you would, as you are, reach out to those around you and those beyond them. Alex and I have a benediction for you. The words are from James Morrison.
Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others.
Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions.
Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and spirit, that they might find healing.
Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world.
Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world.
Go forth and share your glorious light with the world.
And as we go forth, may we all have a passionate zest for the world, much gentleness, and may we all be more human to the very end.
So may it be, all shall be well. Go in peace. Thank you, Kirk. And one final announcement, fellowship hour will begin at 11:30 online and in our lounge for those who want to participate from here. Thank you.